Welcome in to just another edition of Sport Ball. Nothing to see here, folks. I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, are four drinks by my side. Some people are saying that's a slow day for me.
I was about to say that, in fact.
With me, I have my good friends Seth and Kyle. I'm not even going to ask them how they are, since I
You already
listened to
know.
them bloviate for 5 minutes before we even started recording this podcast. I will say, Kyle, you have a nice OKC hat on today.
Oh yeah.
That's all we'll say on the matter, though. This episode, we're going to be covering the divisional round, previewing, you might say, the divisional round of the NFL. And we'll sprinkle in a little Siakam trade, a little Pascal Siakam NBA trade at the end, but we're saving it to the end because I canvassed the nation and all of our listeners, and most of them only want to hear NFL this time of year. And
How
they
long
said
did that canvassing
Ooh.
take to get to all of our listeners?
it was one sit down lunch with my coworkers.
Sounds about right.
So we'll save that to the end so you NFL listeners can log off at that time and go spend some time with your family. First, we're going to preview the divisional round of the NFL, which is it the best weekend? And yet, it may be the best week. I was going to say, is it the best weekend of the NFL, which I feel like it clearly is. And then, is it the best weekend in sports? Some people ask.
I
Some
feel
people
like
do
we
say
had
that. I'm
this
not sure why they say
exact
that.
same conversation a year ago.
And it feels right, doesn't it?
Well, and then you were like, I think, Sam, you were like, I think the first weekend of March Madness is the best.
That
And
is
then
smart of
I
me.
said the second round of the NBA playoffs is my favorite.
What did Kyle say?
I don't recall.
If
I
asked
don't
right
usually listen to
now,
Kyle.
it's not necessarily a weekend, but I truly enjoy a sports equinox. It happens, I think, like once, maybe twice a year, once a year probably.
Yeah.
We got like five different sports on all throughout the day, and you just get to bounce back and forth. We go baseball to hockey to basketball to football. Craziness.
Yeah. So what time of year is that?
It's
Like
usually
early
early
April?
fall, right? Isn't it? No, I
Oh,
guess it's
that's
April.
the
Well, no, it's
opposite.
fall. It's fall because that's usually
Cool.
baseball playoffs.
Oh yeah, it has to be football, right?
Well,
So
there
it's
wouldn't
gotta
be
be
Yeah.
football
fall.
in April. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to this weekend to plop myself in front of the couch and watching all these teams. We have the first game is Texans at Ravens. That's at 3:30 on Saturday. The Ravens are favored by 9.5. CJ Stroud has led the Texans to the second round of the playoffs, and some are saying that he's him. The Ravens have been sitting there waiting for whoever they see on the other side as the one seed. Me personally, I'm kind of expecting the Ravens to start a little slow in this game and then pull away towards the end. They do, I love DVOA. People over in Belgium know I love DVOA. And the Ravens, as of week 17, we cut out week 18 because they didn't start their starters. They were the third best DVOA team of all time in the history of the NFL.
Is that good?
What does that mean for us? I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what definitely means something. There was a report today that the Ravens eat 30 Uncrustables per day as a team. And if that doesn't lead to that doesn't lead to a divisional round win, I don't know what will. They might win the whole damn Super Bowl just off the backs of Uncrusties. So I'm going
The real
Ravens.
question though, the article or whatever, the post that mentioned that, they didn't clarify. Are they going the superior grape Uncrusties? They
Mm,
better not be sprinkling in strawberry. That's all I know.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, their team color is purple.
What the hell does that have to do with choosing
it's just
jellies?
logic, Kyle.
Well, grape is famously purple, so
That's like saying if they make the Super Bowl, they're definitely gonna get purple Gatorade poured on them, and that's never the case.
I'm known to wager on such things from time to time and lose every time. But I have the Ravens this game. Like I said, I think it's a slow start, but they end up winning and covering 28-17. You can book it. Kyle, you love CJ Stroud. You love
I've
Lamar
been a
Jackson.
I've been a believer in CJ Stroud from way before the non-believers converted.
You were a fan of CJ Stroud when he was just a glimmer in his mother's eye.
Early, early on NFL off season last year, we began our discussions for our dynasty draft as to who we're going to take. And I
It
Earlier
always
than you
comes
might
back
adamantly
to
think,
your
we
dynasty
began.
I
team.
adamantly pounded the table for CJ Stroud over Bryce Young at that time. And you said, I don't know. I don't
I
know.
wasn't.
There's something about Bryce. I said he don't got it. I said, you know who balls? CJ Stroud.
In my
And damn was I
defense,
correct.
I'm always looking to defend the short kings first and foremost as a
He ain't no
member.
king.
So what happened with your dynasty team?
I convinced Sam with Bryce Young still on the board to take CJ Stroud.
And the
Nice.
rest, as they
And we
say, is
rode him
history.
to the championship where unfortunately we lost by like half a point.
Because Jaron Hall was started for the Vikings, but let's not
Because
get into
Jaron
that.
Hall started for an entire half for the Vikings.
It's despicable.
Literally,
I agree.
if he was taken out for 3 snaps in the first half in favor of Nick Mullins, we would have gotten it.
That's
Guaranteed.
correct. But we're not bitter.
Well, you're not the first person on this Zoom call to be disappointed by the Vikings in heartbreaking fashion. So I feel for you.
Thank you. That means a lot. Now, Kyle, you also covet Lamar Jackson and his
Facts.
run pass option. So who are you taking in this game?
This is certainly a tough one.
Hmm.
Obviously, we know. So here's the fallacy about rookie quarterbacks or first-time quarterbacks, their win percentage, right, in the NBA or the NFL playoffs. If you think about it, and I haven't gone back to check specifically, but how many of those first-time quarterbacks do you think started in the playoffs due to the fact that the primary quarterback for their team got injured at some point during the season after they kind of already had that playoff berth locked up?
Didn't that happen with Lamar Jackson himself?
I think
Did
so.
he
Did
not
it?
start a playoff game when Joe Flacco got injured? Or
Did
did
he? I
Joe
don't know.
Flacco just get benched? I can't remember.
I'm just saying that was one of the biggest, I think, things that I saw going into last week's game for the Texans was, oh, first time quarterbacks in the playoffs historically don't win. We obviously know CJ Stroud is just him. Um, Coleridge, Bernard, Timothy Stroud himself. Um, the man knows how to just dissect a defense. And I think it's going to be a really interesting matchup. Um, Obviously, we know how good Baltimore's defense is, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. The only thing that I'm worried about is it sounds like a lot of people are pounding the Texans plus 9.5,
Mm.
which does worry you a little bit, I think. But I also think they're right. I think it's a close game. I don't think that I think CJ is able to keep them in it through the fourth quarter, but I don't know if they're able to prevail. So I'm definitely going to take Baltimore to win the game. But you know damn straight I'm picking the Texans to cover that spread.
Uh, just to clear up what I said earlier, uh, Lamar did become the Ravens starting quarterback in his rookie season after an injury to Joe Flacco, and he did in fact start a playoff game, and he was the youngest to do so at 21 years old.
Did they win that
Mm.
game?
That's what I'm looking up right now because I don't remember at all. Here we go. Okay, so all right, blah blah blah. Wild card rematch against the Chargers. The Ravens lost 23-17.
Well, there you go.
Proves my point. Not really, but
Yeah, kind of. Seth, who are you taking in this game? I know that perhaps you weren't following CJ Stroud since he was able to take his first steps, but you've been a fan of his as well. And I know you've been a fan of the Ravens. Which way are you leaning in this game?
I mean, obviously, Ravens are the huge favorite in this game, and I do have Lamar Jackson in our little playoff fantasy league, but I'm already like basically at the bottom of that, so I've given up. Just kidding, but we'll see. I think out of all the 4 games we're going to be talking about that are happening this weekend, I think this is the one where I could see the upset the most. I mean, you could say Kansas City over Buffalo, which we'll get to, but I feel like that wouldn't even be that big of an upset because it's Kansas
Short
City.
line, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I could see that happening and just CJ Stroud doing his thing. Texans taking the momentum off of that first round win. At the same time, you don't want to overreact to one game in the wild card. But I feel like in past years we've compared Lamar Jackson to James Harden with this kind of unique offensive talent,
Yeah.
the way that they've succeeded in the regular season, put up huge numbers, but not always back that up with playoff success. So if I'm like thinking about what is the narrative going to be coming out of this game, I could imagine it being Lamar Jackson, another playoff disappointment. CJ Stroud elevates himself into the next great quarterback. Again, I still think that's a bit of a long shot, but I could imagine it happening. So, I wouldn't be one to like bet on the Texans, but if I had to pick an underdog this weekend, that's the team I'm picking.
So you're picking the Ravens, to be clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a look at the other one seed. This is a fun game. Packers at Niners. It's 7:20 on Saturday. Niners also a 9.5 point favorite. Jordan Love, I am here to inform you, is also him. And in fact had nearly identical stats to CJ Stroud last week.
Yeah,
When
that was
he beat up
crazy.
the Cowboys. They both had 3 touchdowns and were 16 of 21 passing. And one of them was 274 yards, one 276. I mean, you can't get any closer than that. The Niners, on the other side, in my opinion, are the best team in the league. Now, they, however, only have the sixth best DVOA all time in the history of the NFL, and I've heard
Wow.
no reports of them eating Uncrustables. So keep that in
Embarrassing.
mind. I kind of expect them to just tear up the Packers defense under much maligned Joe Barry. And I kind of just going to ride this Niners to the Super Bowl this year, I think. So I'm going to pick them to blow out the Packers. I have the score at 40-21, in case I get it exactly right. Seth, do you also ride with the Niners in this game?
You know it, baby. My preseason pick.
Hmm.
What my Super Bowl pick from the preseason still alive. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But
And what was it? Can you remind us?
49ers Bills. Thank you for asking.
You're doing very well, as opposed to Bengals Seahawks.
Yeah. Or, my usual pick of Vikings against anybody. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously we all hate the Packers here, so I'm not one to pick them, especially when they're going up against a buzzsaw like the 49ers. So it does seem like the Packers have somehow done it again and immediately transitioned to another high caliber quarterback, which is extremely frustrating. But I don't think Jordan Love is at the point in his career where he can lead this Packers squad past, again, one of the best teams in the league, if not definitively the best team besides the Ravens. So
Kyle, you have a look in your eyes like you're going to disagree with us and pick the Packers.
I'm gonna pick the Packers.
It's just your resting hot take look. Resting hot take face.
No, I hope more than anything that the Packers get absolutely destroyed. Sick of the Packers fans. I,
agreed.
I
Can't
mean,
agree more.
honestly, we should be talking about what an absolutely horrendous job Dallas did. Like,
We should.
I just, it, you had a good to great defense all year long, playing man coverage, and you decided to outthink yourself and decide to run zone coverage, which you didn't do much of during the year, and then not change it after you were down 21-0, like what, halfway through the second quarter. And then you also had CeeDee Lamb, who led the league in receptions. Yes, he ended the game with as the team leader in receptions, but he had, I think, like 4 targets through the first half.
He
I
was
don't know
somehow
how you
mad at
don't.
Dak after like the first throw.
Yeah, what was going on with
They
that?
were really off. Like
Yeah.
he couldn't connect with them, but at the same time, it's like, who cares? Keep feeding him. You're gonna get there at some point.
Yeah.
He's literally the only way that you're able to win for the most part. Jake Ferguson went off, as he's been known to do as well. We've seen it this year, but again, it's like I don't know how you do something so well during the year and then you decide to say, you know what, we're gonna switch it up. Why?
You know, it's ironic
It's another
too
one of those
because
coach, like, what do coaches think? I don't understand.
well, and that's a coach Dan Quinn. That's ironic, you know, that he's interviewing for head coaching jobs, and that's his interview right there this weekend. That's a failed first round interview, I'd say, with the way he handled that Packers offense. It just got absolutely demolished by them.
And how did the Packers, how does Dallas already come out and say that Mike McCarthy is the coach next year?
I know.
Why?
I think we
Jerry
know why.
Jones just has this
Yep.
history of he just sticks with his guys like 8 years too long.
Well, and don't you think how Mike McCarthy's kind of seems like the yes man type that won't tread on Jerry's toes too much? He
Mhm.
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
like
easily. Yeah.
he doesn't like too much of an alpha personality talking back to him. I mean, he just now
Oh,
made up
Mike
with
McCarthy has
Jimmy
major
Johnson.
beta energy, dude. Major.
He just made up right now with the Super Bowl winning coach Jimmy Johnson. You know, when he should have been in the Cowboys Ring of Honor years ago, and they just added him because they couldn't reconcile their differences. Like that's why I never really saw it as Bill Belichick going to the Cowboys, which was often rumored because they would just butt heads so much, and Jerry wants control and Bill would want control. Jerry just kind of needs a puppet. It feels like
That's what he wants, but it's not what the Cowboys need. Like we
right.
see with a lot of organizations across sports. Like, and I mean, how many years in a row have we seen this where Dallas looks pretty good, this is their year, and then just complete crumbling in the playoffs. And it brings up the question. I was reluctant to agree to this comparison in past years,
Here we go.
but
Here we
you know what
go.
I'm going to say. But seeing how he's done in the playoffs, is Dak Prescott just Kirk Cousins?
Here we go.
Can't trust him.
I mean, it certainly seems one and the same, doesn't it? He's like a
Just can't
sexier
trust
Kirk
him.
Cousins.
Yeah.
But like, what are you gonna do? You can't really move off of him unless you have a really, really good other solution. I mean, he's still a top half of the quarterback in the league. Not much to be
Yeah.
done there, I feel.
There isn't.
Pretty sure he's the top 10 quarterback still. I mean, I don't
Right.
think there's a question about that.
Right,
In the
exactly.
regular
So like,
season for sure, but
yeah. And of course, like it wasn't all his fault that game. The defense was
yeah.
maybe the first person or first unit we should blame, but certainly his pick six and other interception did not help matters either. So yeah, that's a mess over there with the Cowboys. So Kyle, you pick the Niners as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they, I, they're just way too good. You have way too many outs on the offense. Like, there's no way that the Packers could bottle up all the different facets that they have. I mean, they're just too good.
Agreed. All right, then we go to Sunday at 2:05 p.m. We have the Bucks at the Lions. I don't know what's up with these weird times on Sunday, but everyone set your schedules accordingly. The Lions are 6.5 point favorites, a little higher than I expected, to be honest. Now I know they said C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love are him. Is Baker Mayfield also him? People are talking. I mean, he beat a despicable Eagles team, which we can talk more about, but he got it done to move into the second round of the playoffs. I mean, who was expecting to see the two South divisions represented in the second round of the playoffs and not the NFC East? A little surprising. The Lions, meanwhile, got their first playoff win in over 30 years. I love the vibes over there. Their coaching staff, I'm loving everything I'm seeing from Dan Campbell, from Ben Johnson, and Aaron Glenn. I think this is gonna be a close game, to be honest. I think the sphincters tighten a little bit at Ford Field when Baker Mayfield, goes on maybe a few opening round scoring drives. I'm seeing in my mind, I'm just picturing Dan Campbell going for a huge fourth down to seal the game. Give me Lions 27-22. How does a team score 22? Not sure, but it's going to happen this Sunday. Kyle, do you agree with me that the Lions are going to get a win here?
Um, yes, I'm going to say that they're going to win, but I do have concerns. Mainly, the biggest concern is Jared Goff splits versus blitzes and versus not being blitzed. Uh, When not blitzed, he's completing almost 71% of his passes with 109 passer rating, second best behind Brock Purdy. When he's blitzed, though, that drops to 61% of his throws are completed with only a 78.4 QB rating. Over the last 10 games, Tampa Bay is blitzing opponents on almost 50% of pass plays. So that's, you know, that's his biggest struggle is when he's faced with pressure like that. And we know that the Bucs are tremendous at generating that pressure. So if he can overcome that, I think they win. I think the big benefit is to him being at home, and his home and road splits obviously are very, very stark as well. So I'm going to lean to Dan Campbell and Jared Goff getting it done against the blitz, but I will say I'm slightly concerned.
Kyle,
I mean, is
speaking of
there
the
a
blitz,
single
I was just gonna say real
what's him?
quick, just talking about the blitz, it just seemed like Philadelphia wasn't ready for that all at all last week.
Yeah,
Like
talk
they
about
were
teams
like
that just crumbled.
they're like I've never seen a Todd Bowles blitz before. This is weird. How could we be prepared for this? Absolutely
Yeah,
despicable.
that was despicable. Is there a single person outside of Tampa Bay proper who's cheering for the Bucks in this game in the country?
Probably not. Maybe
Can't think
Justin
Baker
of.
Barg,
Mayfield's parents.
Justin Barg
There we go.
I don't know
Did
where
not
you
think
got
we were
that
going to get a
information.
Justin
He was
Barg
talking
reference.
about it at basketball.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Yeah, so Justin Barg and Baker Mayfield's mother and father, I think, are your three.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I like Baker
I
ever
already knew
since
her.
his rookie year when Sam and I drafted him in the ESPN Fantasy Focus Show League.
How could you like him after that experience? He basically single-handedly submarined our team.
Didn't he not
He
have a
did.
career year as a rookie? Didn't he throw for the most passing touchdowns for a rookie?
No.
Are you sure?
Or did we get him his second
You
year?
must have had
I
him a
don't think it
second
was his
year.
first year, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I always liked him. I liked his swagger. I liked the TV commercials. But you just can't help but love this Lions story and just everything about the team. And they're the rare in division team that I don't actively cheer against. So
Yeah.
I think they'll pull it out. And it's going to be quite the matchup against San Francisco in the conference championships.
Did you hear that story about David Montgomery after the Lions game? It
Mm-mm.
was sometime during this week. He was out at the gas station getting gas in his car, and some
Mm.
lady walked up to him crying and was thanking him for the success of the season and gave him a big hug, or he gave her a big hug then and said, "Thank you for believing in us." So, I mean, they just have it over there.
Yeah, the
It's
vibes.
like a
Just like Seth says, like for some reason, I just can't root against the Lions, even though they're a division rival, but there's something about them.
it's like a sports
Obviously,
movie.
they have my son, Amon Ra, so
Right.
Our son. You watch your mouth.
The sun
Um,
god.
can we say a quick goodbye to the Rams, whomst was quite a fun story this year with the emergence of Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams on the offense, and Sean McVay just kind of willing this team to the playoffs despite I think their over under was like 6 wins coming into the season.
I brought this up, didn't I? We talked about this before the season started, that this was a possibility, right? That their defense wasn't as bad as everybody was making it seem, as long as those young guys in the secondary stepped up just a bit, and they did enough. Obviously, they weren't a great pass defense, but you still had Aaron Donald, who obviously garners so much attention, and then they had a formidable, rest of line to be able to get enough pressures on quarterbacks. And then that offense was just as good as we expected. I mean, I don't know what podcast I was listening to, but they were essentially talking about uh, Jesus Christ, Stafford.
Cooper Cup. Oh.
Stafford. Stafford is
We're
like,
They were
talking
talking
about
about
Jesus
Jesus
Christ?
Christ on the
yeah,
podcast.
Jesus Christ himself. But Matthew Stafford is a shoe-in Hall of Famer, right?
He's got to be. Super Bowl
He's
champion.
he's
Like
quarterbacked the three greatest receiver seasons in NFL history, right?
three.
I mean, yeah, Calvin Johnson's, and then those records were broke by Cup 2 years ago, and then the best rookie season of all time with Puka this
Hmm.
year.
Yeah, I think he's in for sure. It feels like I feel like some of the players that get in, I'm like, I didn't even really feel them when they were like, I didn't like think about them that often when they were playing. I didn't feel as if they were one of the best. I feel like Stafford has legit been one of the best quarterbacks in the league in his time, and I think he's very deserving to be in the Hall of Fame for sure. I think I think Kyle, what you're saying, we talked about before the season. I think we talked about that the Rams and the Bucks have a lot of holdovers from their Super Bowl teams and a lot of talent still, and could be better than people think. So I think we should just give ourselves a pat on the back for that.
Definitely myself, yeah.
They say for they say for every Bengals Seahawks Super Bowl prediction, we get one right. So
I didn't predict Seahawks to the Super Bowl. I just predicted them to win the division or
I don't know
the
who did.
conference,
I'm just
whatever.
saying.
Division,
Uh,
the division.
all right. Last game, the marquee game. Chiefs at the Buffalo Bills. Bills are a 2.5 point favorite. Vegas is saying I think these teams are even, and the Bills have home field advantage. 5:35 p.m. Sunday. Clear your schedules. In my opinion, it's kind of funny because I think these are the two worst teams that these are the two worst teams that these two guys have brought in to these matchups. Like we get Chiefs Bills every year, and this is the worst I feel about both teams going to this matchup than I can remember thinking in the past. Obviously, they're the 2 and 3 seed, but I don't have much faith in either of these teams. Like I wasn't really thinking of either of them as serious Super Bowl contenders coming to the playoffs, and they could certainly change my mind. But the
The
vibes have
Bills
been
were a punt return touchdown away from being what, the seventh seed.
right, exactly. And the Chiefs, as we've lamented all season, their offense has been in shambles. Usually, when these two match up, it's like, okay, the winner of this is winning the Super Bowl, or at least going to the Super Bowl. I'm not sure that's the case this year. The Chiefs crushed Miami in the freezing cold. Everyone knows Dolphins can't swim in ice, and the Bills crushed the Steelers, but they didn't. I guess crush is a strong word. It was a pretty close game. They didn't look too dominating. And kind of all week, I've been thinking I was going to pick the Bills in this game, but today I woke up. Today I woke up. First of all, I woke up feeling dangerous. Second of all,
Like every
I woke
day.
up and I said I think I'm going to pick the Chiefs, but I want you guys to sway me. Seth, who are you picking in this game?
I've got the Bills, obviously, like I said earlier, preseason Super Bowl pick, so I'm not gonna abandon them now. I mean, yes, it's been a rocky season, but I feel like they've been turning it around. They finished the regular season winning three out of their last four games. Obviously, the last game lost to the Jets is a little questionable. Or is that? I might
You mean the
even look.
first game of the
Yeah,
season when they lost to the Jets?
yeah, exactly. So starting over, I'm looking at their schedule backwards. I was like, that doesn't make sense. So, like I was saying, they had an incredible finish to the season, winning five straight games, including beating the Dolphins the last game of the season to secure the second position in the playoffs. So you could say, like, I don't feel confident in them, but you could also say they're red hot after an up and down season. So, and just looking at the way Josh Allen played against the Steelers, and yeah, I get a little concerned sometimes with him trying to play hero ball, and that's when you end up with mistakes that are unnecessary. Um, but just the way the Chiefs offense is looking, I have more confidence in the Bills, even if Josh goes rogue a little bit, taking it to the Chiefs. Plus, I just feel like they're so motivated after the Chiefs have kind of had their number in the playoffs the last several years. So I feel like this is the time where they break through now that the Chiefs are not what they were at their peak.
Kyle, the defense rest would like to hear the prosecution now.
Offensively, they may not have been what they've been in the past. And honestly, I think a lot of that really just has to do with kind of the secondary players, right? We saw the emergence of Rashi Rice this year, and specifically in the second half of the year, when he essentially became a full-time player, he really took off. He was a stud last week against Miami. He was a stud anytime he was on the field this year. Kelsey seemed to have a case of the drops last week. Um, I don't expect that to be something that continues, right? He's been there. He knows how it works. He knows how to get it done. It shouldn't be negative 30 degrees again. Um, Patrick Mahomes this year leads all quarterbacks in yards lost to drops with 362. So as long as he stops trying to throw to anyone not named Kelsey or Rice or Pacheco, I feel good about the offense. But the one switch we've really had from the Chiefs this year is this emergence of arguably the best defense in the NFL. Now you can say it's the Ravens, you can say it's San Francisco, but I think there is also a case for the Chiefs, and that's not something we've been able to say in the past. And as you've noted, Josh Allen is not a stranger to throwing an interception or two, especially in high leverage situations when he doesn't choose to use his feet on a play. L'Jarius Sneed needs to be said. That man, as Tyreek put it after the game last week, L'Jarius Sneed jammed his ass to Cancun. And with no Gabe Davis to spread the field, Kincaid still hasn't really been a full-time player since Knox has come back 2 weeks ago. He's kind of reverted back to playing about 60% of the snaps, and obviously not all of those are from are receiving routes that he's running. There's a portion of that as well that goes into blocking. So Shakir has looked better, right? I think he just doesn't garner the targets. Gabe Davis didn't really garner all the targets that we kind of expected him to. Shakir's not as much of a field stretcher. And I really think Sneed can do a really good job at handling Diggs. That defense is another level of nasty, especially when it comes to getting to the quarterback as well. So if the Bills were to win, it's going to have to be Josh Allen hero ball, which I can't say that I'm confident about against this defense. And then obviously Patrick Mahomes has been there. He's already 8th all time in quarterback playoff wins somehow. He only has 12, I guess,
Just
but
nuts.
that's 8th all time in how many seasons? What is he in his 5th season now? 6th, something like that. I don't know. So give me the Chiefs. Defense is going to win it, I think, for them. But
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about the Bills' defense. I don't think their defense has really been that great. It's really been on the back of Josh Allen. And yeah, they essentially had to win out to make the playoffs, but it's not like they had, I mean, their best win was against Dallas. Outside of that, did they really have too much of a challenge in terms of opponents? I guess the Dolphins team that kind of sealed it for them to get the second seed. But even then, it didn't look like they were going to win that game until, like I said, they had a punt return touchdown, which gave them the lead. So,
I mean, it must be said they've already beat the Chiefs once this year. So
I certainly can't do it twice.
I guess we'll find out.
Man, great arguments from both of you. I think as of this taping, I'm leaning Chiefs. I think Kyle's point is valid that I think the Chiefs defense is the best unit in this game. But this is the first time they've matched up in the playoffs in the Bills' house, and that's got to mean something. Right now, I'm leaning
Isn't
Chiefs.
it the first time? Isn't it the first time Patrick Mahomes has ever played a road playoff game?
Yes.
Isn't that nuts? When he's 8th all time in playoff wins.
It's like
Isn't the Super
sometimes
Bowl technically a road playoff game?
No, it's neutral site.
no neutral site.
But it's not at home.
That's
Right.
not what
Well,
I
I'm
said.
assuming for this stat they count it as neither.
An away game.
Some of the stats
Yeah.
about Mahomes are just like the stats you hear about Jordan, where you're like, oh, so it was just that crazy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I am on, and that's Josh Allen anytime touchdown and Kelsey anytime touchdown. You can lock those both in for this game. All right. DraftKings. You can find that at
Lock in
DraftKings, our
Pacheco
only
as well.
sponsor. Huh?
Lock in Pacheco as well.
You might want to sprinkle Pacheco 2+. I'm not gonna tell you no. Uh
Pacheco and Allen 2+ has to have some juicy odds, dude.
let's pause the podcast right now
Yeah, I'm just gonna look
so I
at it
can
right now.
put my mortgage on it.
I'll just
I
tell you
did.
what it is.
Yeah, go ahead. While you're doing that, I did want to rank the quarterbacks in the divisional round because last night, as I was trying to fall asleep, I tried to rank the quarterbacks in this round, and I got through three of them, and then I fell asleep. It was like counting sheep. The top three are obviously Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar, I would say, and I think CJ Stroud's nipping right on their heels. That's why I have him at 4 right now. I mean, he's great. It's his first season, so we'll see. I have the next tier of Jordan Love and Jared Goff and Brock Purdy. I don't really know how to order those guys. Kind of feels weird. Like Jordan Love's a rookie, not a rookie, but basically a rookie first year player. Not sure what he's going to be yet. And then Purdy and Goff both feel like if they're in the right scenario, if they have a great team around them and great coaching, they can lead your team deep in the playoffs. And I think Purdy might be a little better than Goff, but I'm not really sure because he's under Kyle Shanahan. It's hard to tell. And then I have Baker in a little tier by his own, but he's not that bad. Like we have 8 great quarterbacks left.
I mean, it is one of those things. We talk about this all the time, how hard it is to evaluate quarterbacks independent of their system. Like, am I sure that if you put Baker Mayfield on the Niners, he'd be worse than Brock Purdy? Absolutely not. He might be better. So, but I think overall your tiers are fair.
Thank you. I'm just glad gone are the days of having to watch AJ O'Connell or whatever his name is. Aiden O'Connell?
Yeah.
Thank you. Aiden O'Connell, Jake Browning, sneaky liked him, but Josh Dobbs, rip the like of them. We have 8 great quarterbacks to watch this round. I'm excited. Kyle,
I
before
do
we
also
switch
want
to
to
the
note
NBA,
2 things here.
give me the odds and
Last
then give me your
time,
note.
well, I'll do it in reverse order. I think it's important to note too, the last time during the regular season when the Bills did play the Chiefs didn't have Pacheco. They also didn't have Tranquil on the defense. And I think there was a couple other players that were out that game. So, different matchup here. Second, 2 touchdowns, 2 anytime touchdowns for Josh Allen and 2 for Pacheco, plus 4,000, baby.
Damn.
I got to make a call. All right, NFL people, goodbye to you. Be safe tonight. Hold your families close. NBA time. Pascal Siakam finally got traded
Let's go.
after a year of rumblings. The deal is as such. The Indiana Pacers traded for Pascal and receive him along with a second. The Toronto Raptors, in return, get Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, Kyra Lewis Jr. from the Pelicans, and 3 first-round picks. The Pelicans entered in to give away Kyra Lewis, and in response, they received cash considerations, garnering them an A rating, an A grade on ESPN. And I'm not sure why you get an A for just getting cash, but they did well in this deal, apparently.
What happened to Kyra Lewis, dude? I feel he had so much promise.
But don't you prefer cash?
Cash is king.
ESPN does, apparently.
Seth, how do you like this trade? Do you like it more for one team, or do you like what both teams did here?
I think I do like what both teams did. I think with the 3 first-round picks and quality rotation player with Bruce Brown, I think Toronto got a decent to good haul for Siakam. I think we're all kind of on the same page that Siakam is like a very good third option on a contending team. And so that's a great player to have. He's very good.
We saw it when Toronto won the finals, right?
Right.
That's exactly what he was.
Yeah. But I don't think he's like a foundational piece, your one or two foundational piece to build your team around, which he kind of was in Toronto at this point in their retooling phase. So I think it makes sense to get off of him, build for the future. Still got, like I said, a quality replacement in the short term with Bruce Brown, and then potential in the future. And then for Indy was kind of stuck in the middle of the Eastern Conference. This helps them elevate that a little bit. I'm watching them play as we speak against the Kings. Pascal not playing yet, even though I did see Bruce Brown already playing for Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so obviously Indy has their foundational piece with Tyrese Halliburton, and then many quality players around him. So I don't think Siakam will be asked to do too much. Hopefully Siakam's 3-point shooting, which he's been hot from deep lately, hopefully that'll continue and he will at least be an average or slightly above average 3-point shooter, and will be getting good looks thanks to Tyrese. I know Sam, you talked about I don't want to clog up the lane for Halliburton's drives and everything, but I think he can be at least to the point where defenses have to respect him from out there. So I like it for Indiana as well. Kudos to them for kind of going for it and not being overly patient and realizing, hey, Halliburton is elite right now. Let's give him some players so he can at least start to compete in the Eastern Conference right away.
Yeah, what about the Raptors side of things, Kyle? Do you like the return they got for Pascal?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 3 first-round picks obviously is huge on a team that we'll say is rebuilding. But I like the approach that they're taking here in terms of kind of resetting everything and starting from scratch. It started with that OG trade. Right. Everyone was like, oh, they're asking for 3 or more 1st rounders for OG. Oh, they didn't get it. They should have sold them earlier. But I think their aspirations were, we don't need every single pick to be a 1st rounder. We don't need a, you know, 31st round picks like the Thunder. We have a foundational piece, right, in Scotty Barnes. We've seen him grow immensely this year as kind of being the primary guy. And then you added a younger guard in Emmanuel Quickly, who probably wasn't getting as much opportunity as he should have been in New York. And we've seen him be stellar so far in his short time now in Toronto. RJ Barrett seems to have found new life. He's been phenomenal as well, especially offensively. He's been extremely consistent. So now choosing to get rid of Siakam, also getting back, Bruce Brown, who probably slides into the starting lineup like that for them. And then now they get those 1st round picks that they were kind of expecting to get from one of these two players. Um, I like what they're doing a lot up there in the North.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to even see Toronto this year at a minimum squeak into the play-in tournament.
sure. I kind of like what they did where they nabbed a couple players to use now in Emmanuel and RJ and kind of build around Scotty. And now that they got those players, they said, okay, we kind of filled out what we want our lineup to be right now. Let's get those picks in the door so we can, make some more moves. And I think they could choose to keep Bruce Brown, or they could choose to try to flip him to
Isn't
a
Bruce on a
contender.
1 year deal, or is he on a 2 year? I think he's
I
on
believe a
1 year,
two
isn't he?
year with it
Or is it
might be a
2 year?
player option though. But there's a bunch of contenders that would like to rent him for the playoff run. There could be a little Bruce Brown bidding war, or BBBW as it colloquially called it, to try to get him in house. I mean, they could get a first for him, honestly, if they want to flip him. They could just keep him. He's a nice culture guy, a
I don't know if
nice
you're getting a 1st rounder for Bruce Brown.
in the BBBW. You don't think you are?
No.
I think you get it maybe protected, heavily protected first. We'll see. But I think, he would look nice on a few contenders like, Philly, like what if OKC takes a stab at him? These teams that might want one more piece for a playoff run. But either way, even if they don't flip him,
OKC.
that's a good asset to have regardless moving forward. What do you guys think about the ceiling of Indiana after this? Do you think
The
you're
ceiling's the
more
roof at
likely
this
to
point.
do you think you're more likely to pick them to win a first round playoff series, depending on the matchup?
I am. Yeah. So as Seth alluded to, the Siakam shooting, and I know you said you were worried about his ability to stretch the floor. And obviously, this isn't going to continue at this rate, but over his last 19 games, he's shooting 47% from three. Now, he has a career 34% three-point shooter, I think I saw.
33% career, yeah.
33%. So maybe we're in a sort of Siakam three-point revelation here, and he is able to increase that to even say he gets up to 37%,
I
which I
mean,
think is
he's
almost the average of the entirety of Indiana as a whole. It might even be 38% at this point.
I mean, you said he's shooting 47% recently. He's still on 32% for the year. So imagine how bad he started off shooting. He's probably
Hey,
just gonna average out.
players have cold streaks, you know? They have
Well,
hot
he doesn't have
streaks.
any hot ones.
He's in a hot streak right now. 47% from three over
It's
20
gonna
games
cool off
almost.
again. I expect him to be a little
But
below league
but
average.
but how many of those shots over his last 19 games have been wide open threes?
Right,
Because I'm
he's gonna
sure he's
get
going to get a
free
lot
looks.
more of those now on this team. And I think the other thing that really should be talked about with the Pacers is, and I'd have to go and look. Obviously, I don't do any research before we talk about these things. I just go
Really
off the
not.
cuff. But the Pacers defense has had, at least at a minimum, a slight improvement with the addition of Neesmith into the starting lineup over the last few weeks with Halliburton out. That's what I think is big about this departure to Bruce Brown, is I'm pretty sure Neesmith now slides in to their starting three spot, which I think he's probably one of the more underrated defenders in the league. Um, he's really good, and I think he kind of can act as somewhat of a defensive anchor, someone that can guard the best player on another team, at least as long as that best player is not a five or probably even a four. But one through three, I think he's great defensively, and having that in the starting lineup, playing more minutes is going to be huge for them. I also think it's interesting to note there was an article from The Athletic that came out where Siakam listed the one player he really wanted to play with if he were to go play with someone else was Kevin Durant. If it wasn't Kevin Durant, number two on his list was Miles Turner. This was from like a year or
Hmm.
so ago. He said he's the perfect stretch five he thinks that would be able to complement his game.
Hmm.
And I do think, that it's really interesting. I think there's going to be a really great two-man game between Halliburton and Siakam. I think there's going to be even more wide open threes in that coming from that offense now. We've seen what they've been able to do with who they had, and now you add a player that has the I'll call it the pedigree that Siakam has. He's won a championship. He's been there. He's played with Kawhi, and now he gets a younger player in Halliburton to play with. And I think he's able to bring some experience that maybe the rest of the Pacers didn't have. Obviously, Bruce Brown was just there, a year ago with Denver, but I don't know if he doesn't have the length in the NBA or the tenure in the NBA that Siakam has. So all around, I like to trade a lot for both teams. I really think that whoever ends up playing Indy in the first round of the playoffs is not going to want to play them.
Yeah, Seth, right now the Pacers are the 7th seed, so they'd be playing the Bucks. Obviously, we expect them to make
And
a
they
little run.
destroy the Bucks, dude.
We
The
expect
Bucks
them
have
to
to be
make
shivering in their boots. They might lose out, so they don't have to play them.
I kind of expect them to make a little run with Siakam on this team here. I would not pick them against the Celtics and the Bucks. Against the Cavs, against the Knicks, I might think about it. Against the Sixers, I mean, who's guarding Tyrese on the Sixers? That makes you
Which way
interested.
are you?
The
I don't
battle
know
of the
which way you're
Tyreses.
questioning that. Yeah. Are
Oh
you
my
asking
God, you're
who's
right. I meant Halliburton. I mean, they have Neesmith. You just said, Kyle. They can guard Maxey with Neesmith.
Yeah.
What do you think,
Neesmith's
Seth?
gonna slow him down.
You feeling a little punchy, a little Indiana Pacers second round appearance?
I mean, don't talk dirty to me about picking against the Sixers in the playoffs. That's nothing gets me more excited. And you said they're in seventh, which is very true, but the East is just so bunched up. Like
Right.
they're a game and a half out of fourth. So who knows like how it all will shake out. It could just as easily be, a 4 or 5 matchup against the Knicks or something like.
That one I would have trouble. I kind
So
of love the Knicks too.
The Knicks are a
yeah,
different, are the same animal, but a different beast with OG in this lineup, dude.
Right.
There's something else.
mhm.
Dante
That trade worked out well
DiVincenzo
for
has
both
been
teams as well,
playing
right?
out of his mind
That would be
too.
kind of a fun matchup with OG against Siakam, former teammates, both traded in the same season.
I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
this
I
weekend
mean,
Pacers Cavs first round. Pacers sweep. Tell you that right now.
what do you have against the Cavs? They've been balling.
Can they keep it
I
up
know,
when Garland's back and when Mobley's back? Or is that just going to mess up the?
I'm a Mobley hater, registered.
Honestly, hot take, better without Mobley.
I honestly forgot he was injured. Like I remember today, I was like, oh wait, they're going on this run with him out. People are asking Kyle, is Isaiah Mobley the better brother?
It's like asking, is the Thanasis Antetokounmpo the better brother?
Or like is Seth Curry the better brother? Would you
Did you
actually
see
believe?
Thanasis
What's that?
picked Giannis's nose the other day, mid-game?
Kicked it?
Well,
Yeah,
Justin's been known to pick Seth's nose from time to time. He's no stranger to that.
that's we're not talking Philly here, but that's brotherly love, all right?
All right. Well, I have no more thoughts on this trade. I like it for both teams. That was a little divisional round preview and a little NBA at the end for any of you NBA diehards out there like us. It's been another pleasure on the Sport Ball Pod. Kyle, once again, in this new year, new us, we're looking for you to send off the listeners with something to worm into their ears over the weekend.
Coleridge, Bernard, Stroud, the fourth might just shock the world this weekend and do the damn thing against Baltimore.
Amen.
Place your bets.